Good afternoon. Welcome. Happy Sunday to you. Hope your week is off to a pleasant start. I am Rose October, and I thank you for joining us on arts, culture, and things in between. So, for those of you joining for the first time, I have to say welcome to you too, because you will have to hear a little about what the program is about. And for those of you who've been here before, of course, lots of hugs to you. So I tell you about arts, culture, and things in between before we move forward. Arts, culture, and things in between is a program that features individuals who are gatekeepers of our arts and culture. They're not only performing artists, but also teachers, advocates, and scholars who focus on the preservation of the arts and culture. When arts is mentioned, it is being referred to as the different art forms, like visual, applied, or performing arts. Examples of visual arts would be painting, photography, film, sculpting. Examples of applied arts would be like architecture, as in designing and building or constructing a project. Fashion designing would be considered applied arts, the way in which the fashion designer works with the different types of patterns in fabric. Jewelry designing would be considered applied arts, the way the jewelry designer works with the different materials such as wood, plastic, metal, silver, gold, in addition to working with various types of stones. Furniture designing would also be considered applied arts, the way that a furniture designer works with the various types of woods, the ways that the woods are cut and layered and designed. There is also performing arts. And when we talk about performing arts, we're looking at music, theater, opera, drama, singing, stand-up comedy, and you guys know what I say when I get to this one, the one that brings a smile to my face, dance. So I've just told you about arts, which is part of the name of the program. The other part of the name of the program is culture. When culture is mentioned, it generally means the way of life for a particular group of people. So for this program, it is inclusive to mean the various groups of individuals that embrace ways of life. In other words, looking at attitudes and behaviors. What is important to note is that as culture is mentioned, I'm really looking at how practices are passed from one generation to another. The last part of the name of the program, things in between, arts, culture, and things in between. This has to do with life issues that affect the execution of the arts and cultural practices. This involves both positive and negative experiences that become a part of the creative process. Today's guest is a true artist. And I don't want to give out too much until we meet him. The most I can say is that it's a him, quote unquote. But let me tell you about who he is by sharing his bio with you. Alton Aimable is the founder and president of Tropical Fete Inc. in Brooklyn, New York. This community leader hails from St. Lucia in the West Indies. His formative education began at St. Aloysius Roman Catholic Boys School, then on to St. Mary's College, where his secondary school experience was completed. While at school, his artistic interests leaned towards collaging and drawing, although he has had the experience of writing lyrics for calypsos that were sung by other students. Hence his interest in local carnivals and the Caribbean culture as a whole. In 1992, Alton migrated from St. Lucia to the United States. A few years later, he attended CUNY York College and graduated in 2000 with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting, which validates his professional title as an accountant. Over his career, Alton has held various accounting positions, including senior accountant with the Brooklyn Community Housing and Services, Inc. and Cheng and Company CPA firm. Currently, he works at Ascendant Heritage, previously known as Lot Community Development. At your college, Alton also achieved a minor in music productions and took courses in web programming. He was also a part of the Caribbean Students Association, where he was responsible for maintaining its website. As a result of his course interests, peer interaction and leadership skills, in 1999, he founded and established the online publication tropicalfete.com, the official home of Caribbean culture. In 2011, tropicalfete.com became a non-for-profit organization in Brooklyn, New York. Alton also holds a community leadership certificate from Neighborhood Leadership Institute. So at Tropical Fete, this cultural community leader is actively involved in costume designing, stilt walking, and steel pan playing, amongst many other tasks. He oversees this organization with 7 teaching artists and serves over 100 participants at its location and in various programs offered in the community. The programs at Tropical Fete include the Steel Pan Ensemble, Stilt Walking Group, Dance in Limbo, costume designing, cultural programs in 2 public schools, namely PS 135 and IS 392, and cultural programs at Prospect Hill Senior Center in Brooklyn and William Hudson Senior Center in the Bronx. In addition, throughout the year, Alton spearheads 3 major productions, 2 in the month of June and the other in December. The reading program with Barnes and Nobles held in the month of June has been going on for the past 8 years. The other program in June is the Caribbean Culture Show in recognition of Caribbean American Heritage Month. The 3rd program is the finale, which comprises group performance with order artists. Alton has been recognized for his community work. He is the recipient of proclamations from the New York City Council and from Brooklyn District Attorney's Office for promoting Caribbean culture in New York City. In addition, he is the recipient of the Caribbean Life Impact Award and from Caribbean Life newspapers, that is, for his work in especially the Caribbean community. Whether it is carnival, dance, music, drama, or anything to do with Caribbean culture, Alton is inspired to promote it through tropicalfete.com. His dream is to take Caribbean culture to the international level where it is accepted without discrimination or biases. He is always working on initiatives to advance Caribbean culture. That's quite a mouthful about the guest today. But before we really get to talking with him, let's watch a very short clip of Alton Aimable. Alton,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
You know, those the first two pictures in that slide had me there. Innocent Alton, and then the bright-eyed Alton as an adult.
And then the crazy one in the end.
Well, you said it. You said it. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that we can get to learn about the wonderful work you do through your organization too.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I normally say I let the work speak for itself. So today I have a mountain to climb by speaking about the work. So I think you have a lot of pictures and videos to share, which is what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yes, 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 yes. I have a ton that you sent me. I was very lucky, but we'll see how all of this unfolds. But I wanted to just start a conversation by reflecting on your journey, so to speak. You grew up in St. Lucia, which is in the West Indies, and I wonder, as a child, what did you want to become when you grew up?
Um, when you're a child, you don't really know what you want to do. The key for me is always opportunity and exposure. And throughout my life, I've been fortunate to be exposed to things from being in school, being with my mom, going to events, cultural activity, and having uncle and family members that have gained this profession and have shaped me in terms of where I want to go. So um, just looking at my childhood and looking at what I do, it's always key to give people opportunities. You might not want to do something, but explore it. You never know, and that's how I approach things.
So you mentioned your mom and other family members who were involved in community activities, I'm guessing, whether directly or indirectly, by pulling you along, taking you along. How, if you had to look at your family members and choose one of them, which one would you say would be the most instrumental in you thinking, maybe this is something I might be interested in?
Yeah, I would have to say my mom and my uncle Godfrey.
Okay, so tell us how.
Um, One from my uncle's point of view is persistent of like hard work and that dedication and just focus and going after something. And from my mom's end is just okay, cool. There's this event carnival is going on. I'm gonna take you to town. Let's go and check it out. And just being around, seeing how things function. If I wasn't given such opportunities, the story might be different today.
Yeah. Was mom an artist by in any way?
No, she's a veterinarian, but she actually helps us with a lot of the sewing we do at carnival time and stuff like that.
Wow, I love it. I love it. You know, you said that, I'm thinking it takes a village to raise a child, all hands on deck. Everybody needs to get involved with whatever the project is. So if mom as a veterinarian could have the talents of sewing, why not?
Yep.
So this is an introspection piece that I would ask. As you sit here and you look back, what do you think was preparing you for what has become an aspiration? Maybe you didn't know that back then, you know, in fulfilling what you're doing right now.
One, I first and foremost, I enjoy Caribbean culture as a consumer. One of my problems or issues, despite our talent and tremendous talent, we sometimes don't look at it on a professional level or take it seriously. And in the role of being an accountant, and there was a time in my life where I did auditing for various organizations, as well as audit the city's financials and moving up the chain and seeing all those other ethnicities and communities advance by them educating themselves, understanding how the business process works. That's the path, you know, I took. And sometimes I reach in heated arguments with people just because they might want to do something wrong. And certain things I just would not budge on because I just don't want to repeat that same cycle that we have repeated for generations. So that's where I stand.
Love it, love it. And we'll talk about your profession as an accountant later on. Generally, if you have to, and I'm doing introspection here along, I'm pushing you to do introspection here, coming from St. Lucia. What was, aside from mom who was taking you to the shows and Uncle Godfrey, who has had an impact on your life, and maybe other family members in various ways, I'm wondering, what was your view of arts and culture in St. Lucia back then?
I didn't have much of a view other than something that, you know, I enjoyed. Not in terms of saying I could see how far it could reach. You know, like I said, coming here to meet my father and just gave me a different perspective on it in terms of when I went to school and the circle of friends that I was around, unfortunately to be around, was a group of professionals that actually taught me, mentored me, showed me how to do it the correct way.
Okay. Now, one last question here. Aside from Uncle Godfrey and mommy and any other family member aside from them, who were your role models, or who was a role model for you in arts and culture generally? And it didn't have to be somebody from St. Lucia. And here why I'm asking this. I started dancing as a child, right? 9 years old when I started my dance career, I would say. And for me, the only person, the first dancer that I knew was my dance teacher. And I was just in love with this woman, Teacher Stella Walcott. And my folks who are looking, they're probably smiling because every time I talk about my dance career, I have to invoke Teacher Stella's name. But then after that, it was Madame Lavinia Williams, who was the person who came to Guyana and took dance to the next level. So I'm wondering, for you as a kid growing up, not knowing what you want to do, but mommy's taking you to all of these programs, if you ever saw somebody on stage and said,
Yes, definitely. And Calypsonian Invader from St. Lucia is definitely one. And watching The Mighty Sparrow, of which both of those artists endorse the work that we do at Tropical Fete. And we have some projects coming up with hopefully both of them in the near future. Looking at Calypso in general and listening to the lyrics of Calypso around Carnival time, which at that time was in February, it was a crafty way to tell what was happening in society. And I admire the craftiness of the lyrics, the musical arrangement. So that actually what did it for me.
oh, nice. I'm kind of smiling because I remember seeing a peek of two photos that you have with Invader and Mighty Sparrow.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm smiling. So that must be a really good feeling, though, you know, to grow up and meet these two role models / icons, whatever you want to call them, in your eyes. For sure, we know that Sparrow is an icon when it comes to Calypso King. Invader, you said, was the Mighty Invader?
Yep.
From St. Lucia in its own right, you know? So I'm setting the tone for what is to come in terms of how we really pile on our conversation about the work that you do. So why don't we take a quick peek again at this time at some of the work that you do, Alton, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Wonderful.
Yeah, man, this is Big Yari from Barbados. Big up Tropical Fete. www.tropicalfete.com. No respect from Tropical Fete. See? Online. Big up yourself. Tropicalfete.com. Entertaining and educating the global community and Caribbean culture throughout the world. Tropical Fete, big up yourself, you're large and in charge. See? Online, www.tropicalfete.com. Check it out. This is Biggie Irie. Sing, Lord of Mercy. Tropical Fete, hear what? Say we not going home till Tropical Fete is done. Aye. Tropical Fete, pick up yourself, you're large and in charge. Ah, yeah, alright. Tropical Fete, Lord of Mercy. Hear what? Say we not going home.
I was getting my groove on as we watch you. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're just joining, I'm sitting with Alton Aimable, community leader in the true sense of the word. He is the founder and president of Tropical Fete. And thank you for joining us if you're just joining. So Alton, I was watching that clip and being hyped up about the background, the voiceover about the work that was being done. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that you at work? I can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. I can hear you now. Yes. Yes. Gotcha. Okay. You were saying, sorry.
Sure. That was me working. We were welding up some costumes for a production we recently did 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
Don't work that fast. I only wish I worked that fast. Sometimes we have music in the background to keep us going.
Okay.
And Biggie Irie provided the music.
So you migrated from St. Lucia to the United States. Eventually you attended CUNY, your college specifically. You were involved with the Caribbean Students Association. And there was a connection to this group, especially for you because you were managing the website. I will come back and tag what you were doing in that clip that we saw in a minute, but I just wanted to get some clarification here. Aside from being from the Caribbean and manning the website of the Caribbean Students Association that you were a part of, what else was happening there at your college for Caribbean students?
Your college is in New York, Queens. A lot of immigrants and Caribbean immigrants attend the school, and having that Caribbean club was a sense to feel a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of for the people that were missing home. At that time, we did not have the internet where we could just log on to any radio station and listen like we pretty much in one location. So during that time, there was a hunger and a thirst for community because certain things such as the internet was not as prevalent as it is right now.
Okay, so you went to your college in Queens.
Correct.
Bachelor degree in accounting with a minor in music productions. And then we just watch you in a clip bending wire and making costume. Make the connection for us, Alton.
The connection is when you have to do something and your back is against the wall and the people around you are not performing how you need to. Sometimes you have to step up and just do it yourself. So in the role that I am, I'm very fortunate that I could say out of all the different cultural activities that we may do, I have some knowledge of how to get it done and execute it. Because when it comes to crunch time, the work has to get done no matter what.
You know, I hope that the young ones watching really pay attention and learn from you, because what you're saying is that you made sure that you got equipped with the skills that are relevant for what you do. Period. Hands down.
Correct. It's not just the skill, also is the equipment. Um, what I tell people, you have to invest in yourself, educate yourself, and invest in your equipment and whatever you need. So if today we need to go out and put out a concert in the park, we could do that just by snapping our fingers, and that could be done. And building that system in place for it to happen.
You know, oh, I so love this. And what I'm also hearing here is the business aspect. You're really leveraging the business aspect with the artistic piece and everything in between. And when you said that, I smiled again because um, Raul de Silva, who is the man behind the scenes of this program, he would always talk about the importance of having the equipment and also the knowledge of knowing the knowledge of how to operate the equipment also. So there's so many different things that will come in, and again, the skills. But I like what you said in terms of ownership, because if you have the equipment, if you own the equipment or you have easy access to the equipment, then you may not stay hungry. You know, you may not be left hungry because you can pick up and actually go out and do a production on some level and be able to expose uh, what the craft is that you're working on. And that's just one piece of it. I have other thoughts that will come in later on. So why didn't you go for a degree? Why didn't you go for a degree in the arts?
Um, I explored other options whilst I was in school, such as music programming, like I told you. I guess in your parents and the community at large, more focused on academics rather than arts and culture and performing arts. But it's essential that you have the business behind it. There's no ifs buts about that one. If how you want to go, how far you want to go. I always tell artists, I see some of the artists with the least talent go a lot further. Not the artists with all the talent go further. That's because the connection of business and how business move forward. Sometimes it's a hard thing to translate how it should be done to people.
Well, I'm hoping that we can talk about this later on when we start to talk about the programs at Tropical Fat, but we'll get to that. You developed the website tropicalfet.com while you were still at school. What were your thoughts behind setting up this website back then in 1999?
Setting up the website was more to get a list of events and things happening, within the New York City tri-state area on Caribbean culture. And one of the things I noticed, I was very good at search engine optimization, and therefore when people would search, they will find us about us and they would call us. For example, Irie Jam might be having an event in the park in Queens, and our stuff would come up saying Irie Jam have an event in Queens. And rather than call Irie Jam directly, they would actually call me directly, because we would pop up first in the search engines and I realized we were able to generate all that traffic. Then we started evolving in terms of doing our own productions and educating the community.
Now, that was such a crafty move. My follow-up, or my thought first, is that you obviously filled a gap in the Caribbean arena, the Caribbean culture in New York, period. What pushed you to believe that tropicalfet.com was going to be it?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the accounting days and doing auditing. Um, I would go into a Hispanic community and audit the books and saw how they were able to garner resources for their community and effectively move their community and their artists forward and giving people opportunities. And when I look back at us as Caribbean people, we don't have much institutions around us that could push us forward or move us forward, whether it's through a scholarship or what have you. Which is, and let me just say, I'm thankful for the team of people that I have around me, because I know Ashley, one of our instructors, was been in my ear about starting a scholarship, which we started last December and plan to continue. So it's all about, okay, well, we're doing this, but let's give people something concrete and sufficient to move forward. And we're just starting, and we have a whole lot more ahead.
I like that. I like that. Just before coming on this show, one of my friends was asking me who is the guest on today. So I talked a little bit about you, and he actually raised that point that you made, that we don't have enough in our Caribbean community to service the way that we should, considering the large numbers of Caribbeans in New York, hands down. So,
Correct.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I want to just drive this point home as, when you look at the American society, whether it's through City Hall, through Congress, or what have you, you will find, if you go deep down and you drill down into people's history, even in the entertainment field, you will see a lot of Caribbean people in very high positions. And we need to celebrate that. We need to let people know, hey, we're not just on the ground doing domestic work, but we are all over the place doing things. And that's why we need to push and propel that forward.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my guest last week, kind of, sort of, Courtney Noel, Guyanese musician, entertainer, singer, actor. He works at the United Nations, and we talked about they have a cultural show that they do annually, and he talked about his recent realization of the importance of really showcasing who he is because others are doing it, as a Caribbean person, as a Guyanese person. So I'm loving it. I'm loving this course that you're giving me here, Alton.
Thank
So
you.
let's take another peek at your work, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
Hey, my name is John. The song I just played is Old Lady Walk a Mile. I've been playing pan for a while now under the Tropical Fed organization created by Mr. Alton. See, the Tropical Fed organization, I wouldn't say it's like a pan school. I would say it's like a family. We all are like family. Everybody gets along. It's like a really great environment. We set up a good vibe there, and I feel like you should join. Bring your son, daughter, grandma, grandpa, anybody. Bring them here, Tropical Fete. Join, we can have fun, play some pan. All good vibes over here. Mr. Alton and Miss Ashley, like, and everybody, all the teachers, they're like second parents to me. And everybody's like brothers and sisters there. So I think everybody will get along. Really good environment, and come down to Tropical Fete.
Nice. How old is John in that?
John is, I think he's 13 years old. He started with us probably 5 years ago. So he started very young. He still look young, and he started really young. Just sitting back, not just watching John, but all the kids come at a young age and how they develop. And I want to go back to what I said. He's very skilled. And one of the things that I have sat and talked to John about is, the business aspect of it. So the speech that he gave, I have seen people are not able to give a speech who are professional musicians. And I told him, listen, you need to know how to talk to the press. You need to know how to talk to the media. And he wasn't given a script. He wasn't given instructions. He just spoke from his heart what he felt. But also what I told you just got to be articulate if you want to keep moving forward.
That he was. I mean, he is a proud scholar of tropical fete, I would say. I really think that he articulated smoothly, and he talked about the process and his experience. So kudos to John. John is going to go places. Let's look at Tropical Fete some more. So somewhere along the line, tropicalfete.com morphed into Tropical Fete Inc., a prominent Caribbean nonprofit organization in Brooklyn that serves the community at large. In other words, providing concrete artistic and cultural services to the community. We just heard John and saw John play. The question that I really want to get in your head about, aside from the fact that, yes, you've gone into other communities and you've done the books and you've learned, I'm wondering, how do you decide to turn a website, a .com, into a brick and mortar business?
Tough question. I want to go back to the pictures you were showing earlier on. And sometimes when I have to submit a final report and I need to go back and get all those pictures, I was like, man, geez, we did a lot of work. And just looking at what you showed today was like, geez, we did a lot of work, and a lot of work has to come. So sometimes, I'm down, then, Saturday morning we go in the studio and you hear the kids play, you hear Miss Ashley and the energy she's given. In the afternoon, we go out in the yard, and Caitlin and Rashamba and Charles are there with the stills, and then you come and you hear them say, it's like, geez, this cannot stay here. It has to evolve and it has to grow. So I think the inspiration also comes from appreciating the work, seeing the work, and making sure it moves forward. My biggest fear, which I tell some of the teaching artists, is that I'm not able to deliver for you, and that gives me the drive to move forward.
So, .com activity, because I'm thinking a .com, you can sit, you can research, you can throw in the words in the search engine, and you bringing out these different categories of activities, and you're placing them strategically on the website. Now, Tropical Fete is an institution. How did you transition? In other words, and before you talk about the transition, where is your location? If people want to Google right now, what's your address? What's the address for Tropical Fete, where they will find the institution, where the activities happen?
So our activities mostly take place at Complete Music Studio in Brooklyn. That's St. Mark's, I think 227 St. Mark's Avenue between Vanderbilt and Underhill. We do programming throughout Brooklyn, not just at that location. In the summer, probably this summer, we didn't have our Creative Fun Day in the park we normally do at Lincoln Terrace. We just did a event with the Flatbush Catering Market to promote local vendors. We work with the NYPD doing some of the events and other community leaders. You mentioned we also have programming in 2 public schools in Brooklyn and 2 senior centers, including the Bronx. And so we do a lot. So I'm constantly busy. the early days of the coronavirus slowed us down a little, but we are full speed ahead, moving with a lot of new projects, just waiting for that date to launch it.
So let me ask you, what was the first program you started when you got a location?
The first program when we because we did like events, like an annual event every year in December, which we have done it in Brooklyn, we have done it in Manhattan, and for I think the past 3 years we have done that event at Brooklyn Music School. So it was more just an event to showcase Caribbean culture and Caribbean artists, and from there we developed into our own program, which we started doing the costume first, then move on to the still pan, the stills. And a lot of the programs, some of them stem from, for example, 2 recent programs to be added, which was Limbo and Fire Eating, which Candice came to me and said, you know, she's an artist, she's looking for an avenue to express herself. And I think where we connected, she said to me, well, you know, she really want to preserve the legacy of Limbo, and actually started giving me a very good history of Limbo, where it originated from being part of Finrose, not part of, you know, the commercialness that it is today. So a lot of artists come to me every day on various projects that we should be working on. I know next month we have a International Creole Day event. We have coming up with a live band. We're gonna bring in the pan. And I was talking to another one of our designers, and then she brought a whole lot more to the table with more musicians to be added. And then now I got to figure out, okay, maybe we need to save this for the next production, because this production is starting to get a little too big. And we have our main finale in December. So
let me ask you, in a nutshell, what would you say is what's the mission of Tropical Fete?
the mission is to develop the community in the areas of arts and social services, and the focus on Caribbean culture. And it's important we mention social service in there. I know we love the arts, we love having a good time, love celebrating our heritage, but sometimes there are things hindering us from doing that. Whether it's you know, childcare, financial obligations, you know, sometimes like I hear artists say, I want to do this song, but I don't have the money to go to the studio. I can't do this, you know, and what I normally tell those people is, listen, you might not be able to do it, but there are ways around it. There are other groups and cultural institutions that could help you. And that's where it comes to just educating yourself.
How is Tropical Fete funded?
It's funded through the Department of Cultural Affairs and through the council, city council. Currently, I think we have 4 or 5 city council members supporting us. Council member Alika, council member Laurie Cumbo, council member Louis Farrell, and council member Brad Landers also supports our programs currently.
Is that enough to keep the type of programming going that you do at Tropical Fete?
It's not enough, and the reason why I'm saying it, I'm someone who's never satisfied where we are. We have a lot more we need to accomplish, a whole lot more to accomplish. We started last year giving out scholarships of $1,000 to 4 students in December. We want to do that again, which we gave them half, and then we have to give them half again in December, and then want to continue that cycle. If you see someone with the potential like John or any of our students, and John does not just want to do panning, also recently told me he wanted to do video and photography. It would be nice to say, okay, this kid is going away to college. Let's give him a full scholarship of $25,000, which now $25,000 does not cover college. I know when I graduated college, I had $13,000 of debt, and that was a long time ago. So it's never enough, but we also working on a few projects, such as producing music to tap into royalties and copyrights, as well as producing some games and some apps. And all those things hopefully will be launching in December or in the very near future. And not looking at business from a holistic view. Okay, we're producing songs, but hey, let's get the official rights for the song and start to sell that music correctly and legitimately. So there are things that we are exploring to make sure that we're able to survive and maintain for our community.
Now, I get the sense that you're collaborating with folks who would help with some of these things. For example, development of an app. I don't know if, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't know if your knowledge and experience with web building helps with creation of an app, you know, and games and all of that. So I'm thinking that you probably might be collaborating with some folks who would help with that. Am I correct?
Yes. So everything that we do involves a number of different components, not just one component. So such thing would involve a graphic artist. It involves, okay, let me talk to the kids. Let me talk to Zoe. Let me talk to Kalisha. Okay, well, one question I asked them, send me a list of what's the latest dance moves out there. And their list didn't compare with mine because there was a generation gap. And okay, well, then the argument start, what makes sense to kick out? Then the argument is going to start, okay, well, what makes sense financially to actually buy the rights to use that music? So there's a business process that will be involved in, you know, everything that, you know, we do.
Yeah, love it, Alton. Let's talk about the various programs that you offer at Tropical Fat. Let's talk about the youth programs first, and then we'll talk about the programs for the adults and seniors. Let's talk, what are the programs for the youth?
Okay, so we teach steel pan. We have an ensemble, roughly about 20 to 25 kids. And we go out throughout the tri-state area and do performances. That is one of the centerpiece of the organization. We also want to challenge is people want to learn pan, not necessarily be part of the ensemble. We try to cater for them also, trying to learn pan, not just youth, but also anyone of any age. We move with the stilts, which is a very popular program, you know, in the schools. Kids like being up there. It's actually empowerment. It's the rising of the gods, if you go back, you know, to the history and crossing the ocean during the time of slavery. And actually, part of it is just not just the cultural aspect of it, but also teaching them, you know, okay, cool, why don't you make your own stilts? So that way, that's less work off my back or Charles' back or anybody else's back. We started doing limbo and dance. We have the voices that would normally sing, and we're working on a few productions that they will be doing for the Carlton market in December. And we have limbo that we're trying to grow and get people to sign up, as well as you know, fire eating, and all those things have to be done in a safe environment. Yesterday I had a meeting on structuring how we want to end the year, making an impact on this horrible and terrible year that we have, but we're going to make the most of it and advocate and say this is our opportunity to end quite a number of things, you know, the lack of resources for our community, and just empower ourselves, which is the message we will be conveying at our December event with all our groups.
Nice, nice. How has it been keeping the children engaged, keeping the youth engaged through this year of the pandemic? So
extremely difficult, extremely difficult. And when we had our meeting in June and get the temperature of where everyone's at and what they're comfortable with, the sense is the kids want to come out, they want to be together. The parents are, let's take our time with this, let's work in smaller groups. They miss it, they want to come back to it. So in the meantime, we've been trying to do stuff that we would normally not have the time to focus on if we were in class, such as the business aspect of things. Come November, we're going to start shooting and getting ready to do our December production. So I'm actually trying to set up, a studio at home with a green screen and lights, and write out the script in terms of what we all discussed at our last meeting and putting it together.
So, question about the classes. How are classes conducted? What's the schedule like?
So normal schedule would be Saturday from 11 to 1. Steel Pan Ensemble comes in. From 1 to 2, from 1 to 3, the voices would be practicing. And from 2 to 5, the stilts and limbo would be going on outside in the yard. Some of the issues are sometimes the kids doing multiple tasks and need to bounce from one program to the other. Another challenge is we roughly, in normal times, we normally have 3 performances, per week. And those performances help us with matching funds in terms of going out to perform. So sometimes when I tell someone we can't perform for free, it's not that perform, is just, it helps us move forward. It helps us to invest back into the organization. It helps us to put money towards the scholarship, for the kids that, we could actually move forward.
Before I forget, this is like the second or third time you mentioned scholarships. What would warrant a student getting a scholarship?
Yeah, so they have to be in the Tropical Fed program for at least 2 years. And when they they graduate from college, not from high school, they would give me the letter of acceptance of the college. Then we will release the first 500. After completing their first semester successfully and registering for the next semester, then they will get the remaining 500. That way they're forced to build accountability and stick to it.
Right, so there is no essay writing or anything like that?
Correct, they just have to be in the arts, be in the program. And we, try to make sure, get a good sense of who's graduated so we could plan ahead.
What about if you have more children graduating from high school going on to college? Is it first come, first serve then?
So right now, on average, just checking who's in the program right now, roughly it's about 2 to probably 5 for the most.
Okay.
And it's not something that you have to prepare yourself for. It's like, it's planning ahead. That's what it's all about.
Okay. What about the programs for the adults and or seniors?
Okay, so we work at 2 senior centers, Prospect Hill Senior Center and also St. Augustine Senior Center in Brooklyn. We also do an event and a program every year in June at William Hudson Senior Center in the Bronx. And quite a few senior centers, we might go out and do performances for them. But the 2 senior centers I mentioned, we would have done Steel Pan with them, where we actually teach them a song on pan. And during this pandemic, we were looking at doing pottery, of which we bought the equipment, got everything moving, and then the pandemic hits and we couldn't, be in there physically. So we had to actually just construct the class, put it through Zoom, and still plan to go in when things get back normal with the seniors.
No, you mentioned that you teach pan. How many pans are you taking there?
So roughly for the seniors, we take about 5 pans. In terms of the arsenal of pans that we have, and that's where money's never enough. Roughly, we have a set that probably costs somewhere around $50,000. Those pans have to be tuned every year. So we have to pay to get it tuned, to transport it, to move it, and move that equipment.
No, I'm trying to get into your head just to get an idea of the layout of Tropical Fat location, because I've never gone. I guess there is a dance studio.
Yeah, it's a music studio. Okay. It's a music studio, and we have a storage space we pay at the studio, which houses our equipment. And we have quite a lot of equipment, from pan to stills to sound systems to videos and all types of stuff sometimes I find in between.
So I'm going to ask a very probing question here. Is the building, are you paying a rent?
Yes, we pay for the storage every month, and we pay for the studio time per hour, as well as virtual. We have a virtual office in Manhattan, which we use for meetings, but our programs are executed, mainly in Brooklyn. We do actually do a program at the Schomburg Center every year, every first Friday in September. We've been doing that for the past 5 years, showcasing the art of carnival.
Wow, I'm just sitting here and I am just wowed, Alton, because I'm really getting a true sense of how the business aspect is being balanced with the artistic aspect, because I'm also thinking with your location in Brooklyn, there is some branding there, right? Tropical Fete at the location.
Yes. I'm not sure what you mean by branding.
In other words, let me explain, because maybe I'm not doing a good job explaining what's in my head. I'm thinking that you're renting this space, and although you're renting, you're allowed to say Tropical Fete somewhere on that building.
No, not. It's a studio that other musicians use all the time.
So then, if I do not have an address to come to this music studio to find Tropical Fete, I will not know that Tropical Fete is housed there.
Correct, but I think the branding you're speaking of would come in terms of marketing, in terms of advertising, letting people know what we do and what we're about. And at the same time, it's important to be respectful to the community that we are in. So right around the corner, the NYPD knows that we're there, and we play for them every August for National Night Out Against Crime. The library knows that we're there. The school around the corner knows that we're there. It's part of just being engaged and actually doing the work.
Yeah, in the community.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I love this. I'm excited. I am excited for the work that Tropical.
And I'm gonna take you up on your offer to do still. So next Saturday would be wide open.
So I told Alton that I want to learn to walk, to do stilt walking. I told him that, and I'm just fascinated by it. And I don't know how I'll do, but I'm willing to check it off of my bucket list. And yes, I want to come. I'm not going to shy back from that, Alton. I told you that. Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Let's take another peek at your work and then come back and talk some more. How about that?
Sounds good.
Yes. All right. More of Alton Aimable on arts, culture, and things in between. Let's take a peek at Alton's work.
This is Biggie Ari from Barbados. Picking up Tropical Fete. www.tropicalfete.com. No respect from Tropical Fete. See? Online. Pick up yourself. Tropicalfete.com. Entertaining and educating the global community and Caribbean culture throughout the world. Tropical Fete. Pick up yourself. You're large and in charge. See? Online. www.tropicalfete.com. Check it out. This is Biggie Irie saying, Lord of mercy. Tropical Fete, gear up. Say we not going home till Tropical Fete is done. Aye. Tropical Fete, pick up yourself. You're large and in charge. Ah, yeah. All right. Tropical Fete, Lord of mercy. Gear up. Say we not going for.
All right, we're here with Alton Aimable of Tropical Fat, tropicalfat.com, and Tropical Fat, the non-for-profit organization. Thank you all for joining me on Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. So in being the founder, Alton, and president of Tropical Fat, you have had to meet many individuals in the community. You've been awarded for your community work, and you get the support from community leaders. We've talked a little just now about how you make sure that the work that Tropical Fat is doing really connects with some of the leading institutions, for example, NYPD, the schools, in the communities. But I'm wondering, with respect to support from community leaders, what kind of conversations are you having with them?
We have conversations, throughout the year. The library is one of the institutions that we, have a relationship with. They call us to do programming, whether it's teaching or do performances. I'm not sure what do you mean by cultural, by leaders, community leaders.
I'm talking about whether it is the politicians, for example.
Oh, so we do a lot of work with the elected officials. For me, one of the first priority is not take my word for it, but actually come in and see the work. So I let them come in to see the work, let their staff come in and see the work. One conversation, I remember we were doing an event and there was not an elected official, but a member of their staff came in and they saw what it takes to set up a steel pan ensemble. And they were like, man, this is a lot of work. You should put all this in the budget. I said, yes, it was in the budget. But it's more, everyone that's out there, we let them see what we do because we are proud of it. It's authentic, it's genuine. And not only that, this is only just a stepping stone. So they have all seen the work and, some of them have been supporting us one way or the other.
Has any of them actually passed by the location just to see how this work unfolds?
Yes, a lot of them have stopped by when the work unfolds. When we do our December production, they're all invited to the event. Some of them attend, some of them send their staff. And this year we're probably going to be doing something virtually, of which I'll be reaching out to them to actually send their recording. The last event we did, Councilmember Laurie Cumbo always is more than willing to share our flyers and post our flyers, as well as the other elected officials saying what we're doing. Actually, next week we should be having another meeting with another council member in reference to what happens after this pandemic is over with the senior centers.
Nice. Now you go out to a senior center in the Bronx, and I'm wondering if there is any consideration being given to maybe adding on to what you do in terms of senior centers, maybe in another borough. You're doing Brooklyn and you're doing the Bronx now. Any plans for moving to doing a program at a senior center, maybe in Queens, maybe in Staten Island, so we can talk about branching out and doing more of this?
Everything is on the table. I think this pandemic has given us a chance to sit back, evaluate ourselves, improve on some of our products. So, we recently just updated our brochure, and there's a lot more updates within the organization that we are putting in place that would allow us to, when this is all open up to go, and we are on to the races. So that's how we're approaching it.
Now, how do you connect with recognized Caribbean artists to support the work of Tropical Fat? I know that I had some pictures of you with Damian Marley, with Mighty Sparrow, with Mighty Invader, with Bill de Blasio, with a few. I was hoping that we would have been able to see them, but we haven't. How do you connect with some of the Caribbean artists to support Tropical Fet's work?
Um, they love the work. The A lot of artists are looking for an opportunity to showcase their craft, and there's again not much venues or outlets for them to showcase their craft. So I'm happy we're able to provide this opportunity. There are also artists that we may not get along, being blunt as it could be, because of their manner of operating might be different from mine. But at the end, there have also been situations where we have had falling out with certain artists, and then later down the line, it's like, oh, geez, I should have followed you. I should have followed you and, do the right thing, set up myself correctly, rather than be all over the place running and developing yourself. So it's not taking things personally, but understand we are artists. We all operate differently and move forward. So, and making that adjustment.
I like that. And I think like what I'm about to ask, because you started off our conversation with talking about the business aspect of this work that you do. How do you work with businesses in the community to promote Caribbean culture? Now, I'm using businesses very widely.
Yes. So in terms of business, a number of businesses we work with. One of them we have had a relationship with was the Island Restaurant from 2012. He's been supporting us, providing food to us, sometimes at a discount, sometimes giving it us free, because the kids and people need stuff to eat when we have programs. So the Island Restaurant on Flatbush helps us. If we need to put our flyers there and promote it, he's more than willing to help us. Last year, Con Edison came on board with some of the work that we're doing. Barnes and Noble, we've been working with them for the past 7 years, doing a reading program. So we are reaching out not just to the small business and corporate field, but everyone in between, because a community exists with all aspects and all elements around it. So I cannot isolate one person or focus on one person, but everyone could bring something to the table.
You mentioned Barnes and Nobles, and the educator side of me just, my ears went up there. Describe that Barnes and Nobles program that you have. It sounds exciting.
Yes. So before I talk about the Barnes, I just want, in terms of the artist aspect of things. Okay. So we see a lot of Caribbean authors write books, and some of them are self-publishing. And then sometimes when we do this event at Barnes & Noble, I ask them, is your book available at Barnes & Noble? And most times the answer is no. And Barnes & Noble is one of the leading places to sell your books. And if you are in a particular business, such as being an author, you need to be networking and working with the people that know the business. And I work with Barnes & Noble to get the script in terms of what authors need to actually get their books listed or be on the Barnes & Noble website. So I just want to drive this another point home, saying that if you're an artist, a musician, you need to work with legitimate and bona fide people that know what they're doing. That relationship with Barnes & Noble have helped me, educate some of, the authors in terms of what they need to get their books, published. We normally do it on a Saturday. We select an author, we have a host, we might have a cartoon character, something, and we have the kids interact, and we encourage the love of reading and literacy.
I am guessing too, it has to do with age range and the type, obviously.
Correct. So age range, we have basically focused on the youth and children's books. As a result of the pandemic, we actually moved the program online, and it actually was a blessing because we actually got to work with not just one author for the year, but at least 5 authors, one every week. And that also included adult books also.
Oh, nice. So clarify this. You have this arrangement with Barnes and Nobles, this collaboration going with Barnes and Nobles. And the impetus really is about the book being the focus for teaching and learning in the environment with children or adults, depending on age range, type of books, and all of that. How is the connection made with the author? Through Barnes and Nobles?
No, that connection is made through us, researching Caribbean authors that are out there, and there are quite a few, and giving them that opportunity.
What's the connection to Barnes and Nobles still after you do that research?
The connection with Barnes and Noble would be, okay, we're gonna be featuring this author. We're gonna, Barnes and Noble would then bring that, order that author's book and have that author's book to be displayed in the store, because not all books are displayed in the store and actually have it to be sold on that day at a discount for the author.
So pre-pandemic, the reading would happen on site.
Correct.
Interaction would happen on site.
Correct. It would happen on site at Barnes and Noble on 7th Avenue.
That's Park Slope.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, okay. That's nice. That is really, really nice, because not only, it's not only that the children are learning, period, but they're learning about Caribbean authors. The authors are getting a forum for selling their books and getting exposure, so to speak, in person, and I guess exposure in their pockets too, because their books are being pushed in a different way. That's really, and what is that program called?
It's called Authors Connecting.
And who coined the name? You?
I believe I did, because we were trying, the name is pretty much simple, connecting to authors, so Authors Connecting.
Okay, nice, nice. So it's what you're talking about here in terms of the work of Tropical Fat is expansive, really. You're touching on various ages of individuals of the Caribbean, or of Caribbean ancestry. Now, are you dealing with authors who are out of the United States, given the nature of what we're dealing with the pandemic?
The authors we have featured are mainly authors within New York City. Because of the pandemic, we actually had a wider reach, which we still focus on authors within New York City. But because of the marketing and the way we've structured advertising online, quite a few authors mailed me some of their books. I think one was from London, mailed us a book to be featured in the next round when we do this in June.
It makes sense. I'm thinking if you're gonna do, if you're gonna do it virtually, you can probably squeeze in a book or two that's not local. If you can get Barnes and Noble to think out of the box, why not?
Correct.
Yeah. So what collaborations with other groups other than Barnes and Nobles, Con Edison, the businesses, are there any cultural groups that Tropical Fete has collaborated with?
Well, I think the Guyanese, we did an event for you guys in June, at which we do many of those collaborations throughout the year.
February.
Yeah, in February this year we did the event. Recently, the South Jersey Caribbean Festival, We performed at the festival last year, which was our steel pan and steel screw. And this year the event didn't happen, but we actually collaborated with them for them to sponsor a face mask contest, which they were donating $300 to be split up among 3 winners for the best creative face mask contest.
Now, with the face mask contest, what kind of, I'm just thinking face mask, costume, right? Because these days people are wearing their face mask to match their outfits. It's a whole ensemble that's going. So in terms of a face mask competition, and I'm asking you here as the expert, what would be some important qualities for a face mask to have to win?
Well, the winner has been selected, and I think what we were looking for was something different and creative. And she actually did a face mask, but the face mask was a heart across her face, which was different. I don't really think I saw such face masks. Maybe there is, but I felt that was very original.
Wow, nice, 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 nice. Now, have you collaborated with other groups that are not Caribbean?
Numerous times, numerous times. In our December production, we always try to be experimental. We have fused stilts and limbo with a salsa group from Queens called Salsa in Queens. Last year we opened up our December production with horror artists from Africa.
Mhm.
And we plan on doing something together with the Asian culture, mixing that with the steel pan very soon. All I could tell you is get your yoga mat ready. And I'm definitely gonna send you an invite to that. So we not just collaborate with West Caribbean artists, but also try to expound it. Because sometimes we go out and do performances with other groups, and we sit down in the dressing room or in the green room, and we start talking. And hey, maybe we could do this together or try this together, and then from there it evolves.
Right. I just thought about this question based on what you said. Have you thought about, or have you done this, whereby one of the children in the program takes the lead on teaching? And I'm not just talking there at Tropical Fair. I'm talking about outside of Tropical Fair.
That's in the works. That has happened. I know one of the students that went away to college this year, Shania. She expressed an interest in teaching in the schools directly while she's at college. So that gives them an opportunity for them to learn and also earn something whilst they're at college. I know Caitlin, who was one of our top teaching artists, also started. She came in. She was doing master for a while. She learned the stills. Now she loves teaching, in the school programs. Sometimes the kids give her a tough time, but she sometimes rather move to the younger kids to teach. So having someone come and learn and being able to teach, Stephanie comes to mind. Stephanie actually, left us to go to college. She's doing piano and wanted to do vocal training in the arts. And she wants to learn as much as possible. So we invite her to the last board meetings so she could understand that aspect of how we discuss things. And she said this was an opening to her, but she never understand from a board perspective, some of the arguments and some of the things that we have to go through.
You mentioned piano.
what are your thoughts about growing the music program and adding on to the steel pan?
Yeah, so we do teach piano. So we do teach piano. That's something that was introduced earlier this year, actually in December, but actually came on stream at the time of the pandemic virtually. Um, it's been a little slow because people want to go out and be there physically. So that's one of the things that we offer. In looking at how we operate and see some of the challenges behind executing programs online and stuff like that. One of the products we are hoping to launch, come out in the next week or two, is actually getting the teaching materials uploaded or on Amazon so the kids could order it directly and it can be shipped to them, directly. There's some person just have one device, and that one device is supposed to have their notes, communicate with the instructor, and a lot of challenges.
But how would you upload the notes to Amazon? And I'm really sharing my ignorance here because I'm not sure I understand that. You talk about
So part of the issue is, okay, well, we're playing those notes on whether it's a steel pen app or a piano, and the issue is you're using that same device to communicate with the person when you need to use that same device to watch your notes. So what we had to do was print out the notes, mail it to them, hand deliver it to them, drop it by the doorstep for them to actually start getting it. And just the frustrations of doing it and making life a lot easier.
I guess I got a little confused because you threw in Amazon there.
Yes, so that way we just develop the teaching material. And if you want to be part of the program, you just buy the teaching material, you have it with you, and then we could go from there.
So you develop the teaching material and it's sold through Amazon.
Correct.
So it's not just then it would not just be for students at Tropical Fest. Am I correct?
Correct.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The magical question: what are some challenges faced by Tropical?
Challenges faced, I think sometimes building up the steam and energy to motivate people to do stuff. Challenges tired of the same thing and you just want to knock down new doors. So that's frustrating. Challenges, looking for a bigger space and environment because the level of work and production that we want to do requires us to not just be in a location, but actually in a huge warehouse. Because we weld, we do woodwork. If you come to my house, it's 99.9%. It's always in a mess because something is going on in here or someone is running through the house or something. So there are a lot of challenges, but I actually like challenges because if we don't have challenges or issues or problems, that means we're not moving forward.
So if there's a fairy godmother or fairy godfather out there listening, I hope that they wave their magic wand and, you're able to get the space. Now, are you actively looking for warehouse space or for another location?
I won't say actively, but it's definitely on the radar. It's all about growth, and that's what propels us, not being in the same space, not space, but meaning level or status at the same time. Because there's so much more we want to do. When we talk about doing productions, we have a production to do some giant cage that would be as big as a house, and that would need space for it to happen.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And I can tell how you can't wait to get a different space so that the work that Tropical Fest does can really blossom and go beyond boundaries for the community that you serve. Let's take another peek. I'm not sure what we'll get because we were having some difficulties playing some stuff. So let's take a peek some more of your work. It might be a repeat, I'm not sure, but then we'll come back and talk some more. Welcome back. I'm sitting with Alton Aimable of Tropical Fete. He is the founder and president of this Caribbean Cultural Institution. Alton, we saw you with some of your supporters there. and,
Correct.
and icons and role models, if you may. I'm glad we were able to show that. So one of the clips we played twice is of you creating a costume. In other words, you are artistic, and I would say very artistic. You're involved in costume making, mokajumpy or stilt walking, playing the steel pan or on drums. Do you play another drum other than the steel pan?
No, I don't play. Iron normally is what I would play with the kids when they're around.
Okay. You're like
Which just brings to mind another project that we actually working on with just natural instruments, not regular instruments. We want to just keep expanding. So what you might see today, trust me, will change next time around.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. So emphasis on natural instruments. I'm not going to ask you to let
Correct.
Okay. So let's chat about your involvement in costume making. How did you get involved in this? What is your first memory of getting involved in costume making?
So I think the first time when getting was with working with Borokit Carnival Band. I think that's not functioning at this time, and working there to do a section we had called Volcanic City and understanding the business aspect and what it takes to getting that done. Was that?
Year.
That's with Borokit.
Yeah, what year? Do you remember the year? I know.
That would be 2012.
Okay.
And then from there, we tried to do something on our own, of which the kids part was successful, the adult part was not successful. But what I saw what I was doing is I was only focusing on the creative aspect of things, just making sure, okay, well, this, but there's so much more to it. So I had to just cancel it and start all over again and look at, okay, well, yes, the costumes could be grand and boom, but then if you don't have people coming in, so therefore you need to work on your marketing and your image and getting that aspect of it up. So it's maintaining, that balance, and time is limited. So it's a question of where do you spend your time and you want the vehicle to move forward at the same time.
So what would be the makeup of the team then when you're getting ready to do a costume band? Because you're talking about, okay, folks who are making costume, you're talking about the business aspect of things, the marketing and everything else that goes with marketing. What is the composition of the team that is really focused on the work for producing a band?
So not very focused on the work, but actually when I'm looking at doing something, I'm looking at building a system in place. So next time around, we're not reinventing the wheel. and starting all over again. So question, we know where the supplies are coming from. You know, we sort out who the best suppliers. So that's already in the portfolio and how things move forward. Who's providing the sound? Okay, we need sound system. Why don't we buy our own sound system so we don't have to go through this issue of this person's not coming on time because I'm not gonna, go through this twice. And looking at problems and just solving it as you move forward, because no production goes as planned, but willing to adapt, willing to figure out, okay, cool, I could cut this out to make this happen and the ship still sails. One of the things that I haven't really sit back and actually watch any of our shows, especially the one at the Brooklyn, music school, where there's a curtain, there's a green room downstairs, so I'm always backstage. And there's a lot of arguments and things happening behind the production, but in the end, the product comes out correctly.
Now, with respect to costume making, are you teaching students that, or are you just doing it with the adults and the professional team?
The kids are definitely involved in terms of doing their own stuff. During the pandemic, they were working on designing their own costumes. I encourage them to come over because we have all the equipment for them to sew their own stuff. We have tons of fabric from the material for the arts that they could use. They have the wire work, we have the welding, so it's less work on me if they could do their own stuff. And that way, that frees me up and creates more time for me to think of more crazy stuff to do.
Well, let me ask you, so the kids are going to create their thing. Is it that it's a collaboration amongst the children that they're sketching, and somewhere along the line, maybe you or somebody from the team will finalize, well, this is going to be the for this section? How does it work for the children if they're involved in creating?
It works where sometimes it's collaboration, sometimes it's them doing their own thing. The last production was, for example, I completed the wire work. Charles picked the colors to go along with the costume. Then I gave the costume to Zoe with some instructions on how things to get done. And then she didn't do it the way that I explained it, but she did most of it with her own ideas and creation. Like, oh, cool. And things I never thought of that she implemented, in it. So it's a give and take situation. Sometimes something might come up and no, that doesn't look good, and we scrap it and then we start over again.
So let me ask you this. The costumes, and I really love the costumes that I see the stilt walkers, the dancers on stilts wearing, the Mokojambis. Are they sewing their own costume there, or there is a costume mistress or costume designer for their costumes? I'm looking.
Most of the times, Charles or my mom would sew some of the costumes, but I encouraged them to do their own. I saw during the pandemic, some of them started their own individual businesses, and I said, okay, well, if you're already designing the jacket, why don't you just buy the fabric and sew the jacket? That way, you save on cost and time than buying a jacket and design it. So, and they have the capability to sew. And as if one person move forward, that's mission accomplished.
Yeah, that's a success story. Regarding, I'll ask you one more question about costumes for stilt walking. I'm fascinated by them by now. Is there a particular way, or are there particular designs for the stilt walkers for their costumes?
Yes. So it's well, I want to say look at Brooklyn Zombies. That started still walking in Brooklyn, and they have given us all their blessing to say we support you. If you need anything, any advice, come to us. Their costumes are elaborate and fabulous. With us, we have a group and everybody has the different styles, so sometimes that could be challenging. So the way we try to get around that challenge until we're trying to, let's try to look at the costume. Up close, it might look good, but if someone's looking from a stage or in the back of a stage, it will look different. So that nitty gritty stuff that you might want to put on your costume from far, it doesn't project. What could you put on there that from afar, it would just say wow or what have you. So we go through a process when trying to develop a costume. Sometimes time is of the factor. Also, it could be we get booked to do a wedding or sweet 16 or bar mitzvah, whatever the event is, then the person hiring us would have their request for a costume, and all depends on how elaborate they want to go or how extensive their budget is. So a lot of things play a role on costume.
I'll ask you about the bar mitzvah in a minute. But let me ask you about, you mentioned Brooklyn
Zombies.
having elaborate costumes, and I'm thinking of a guy, Walker,
Ali?
Julio, he's in Canada, and he does this a lot of outlandish costumes he does. But I got tangential there, I thought about him. But when you mentioned the Brooklyn Jumbies, are you talking about like maybe big wings and tall headdresses and the like? What are you talking about when you're saying extravagant costumes?
Big wings, that's one. Costumes that show a character or something that you're portraying, whether it's a bird. I know the hit at our last production in December was taking that song called Hulk and actually coming out with the Stilt Walkers transforming into Hulk, and where the crowd wasn't expecting it, and it just like, wow.
Yeah, I saw that. That was so prominent. I mean, the photo I remember is that he was up like this with his chest out. Yeah, that was cool. That was nice. And I'm sure it's such a fantasy island too for the children too when they see.
Yes, so what we say about that piece was when we were discussing it, and we had a heated argument. The kids didn't want to have that. They didn't want to entertain it. And it was a very heated argument where I said, okay, cool. Then it turned into, okay, well, the boys are going to outshine the girls. And the girl says no. And it's like, okay, well, we don't have to make, but I could figure out a way to craft something with the audience in mind. And yes, you're thinking of performing and doing it, but also you have to think of, okay, I'm here to entertain an audience. What they would like, what would be the element of surprise that they would like and like to see. So a lot of things go into the costume. At one time you might want fire popping out or things popping in the air. It varies.
Now, what advice would you have for someone who is, I want to go back to the costume making and then we'll go back to the stilt walking, but I don't want to forget this because I have this. Recently, the commercialization of carnival is something to talk about, really, because these days the angst is that costumes have become so expensive that some Caribbean folks cannot afford to pay for them, to be a part of carnival and be a part of the culture in an inclusive way. What advice do you have for someone who is seeking to purchase a costume for the first time?
So simple advice is come to Tropical Fete. The costume would cost $400, $500, $600, some in the $1,000. You would come to us and say, okay, well, I want this, I want that. And I'll tell you, this is what it will cost. It's like, okay, I can't afford this. Okay, well, are you willing to do it yourself? And I could show you how to do it yourself. Where different groups go in this with different purpose, different meanings. We do a lot of weddings and events with a carnival theme in mind. They might want, we not just do it for carnival, but we do it throughout the year. We do performances. So a lot of things goes into saying, okay, cost, but then how could I break? No, don't use this feather. Use that type of feather. Because this feather is just way too expensive. $40 for one feather, and you have 20 of those feathers on it. That's gonna add up. So it's looking at a drawing and a sketch and what you want and see what's realistic and fit within your budget.
So what would a performance at a wedding be for Tropical Feb? If a couple wants to have a program that includes masqueraders or revelers or dancers, what would it look like in terms of costuming based on what you just mentioned?
So it would look at if they want a particular color. I go with white, or they might say they want something in pink or gold and red. And then the instructions, if sometimes we would normally have a steel pan play in the cocktail hour, that's also part of it. And then when it comes to the costume, that would be around the party atmosphere time when they want the crowd up, lively, dancing, and having a good time.
So what would be the piece of your program that would be pulling the crowd out, so to speak, hyping the crowd up,
Yes, so various things we would use. Sometimes they would come out with flags to wave or give flags out to the people in the audience, or lights, those beam lights where you wave like this. Also, we have shot fire cannons in the air. That's always rile people up. Maybe I'm giving too much secret, but also in performing, they're trained to, okay, well, I'm dancing. Then you pull someone off the dance floor that's being shy and force them to dance. And there are some performers that could do it very well, some performers that they get rejected and they say no, and you can see how it affects their confidence. So all that is the learning process of, performance and
I'm also thinking of this as entertaining too, not just performing, if you know what I mean, but entertaining, performing in a way in which you know that you're entertaining because the audience or the participants or the attendees are in it with you.
Right.
I like. So tell me about bar mitzvah and stilt walking, because you mentioned those two in the same sentence, or I'm not remembering this.
Yes, it's all part of what we do in terms of performances. We not just perform for West Indians, but we perform for other cultures. Purim, I think it's similar to like a Jewish carnival. We also have done performances for Purim also, which is no different from performing at a wedding or Sweet 16. It's just providing, entertainment for your audience.
Now, are there any specific rules or guidelines based on cultural differences when you do, for example, a bar mitzvah?
Most times it's the dress, which they lean on, don't be too skimpy, which we are not. We don't go that route. Maybe other groups do. And then sometimes they not just from the Jewish culture. We have quite a lot of females doing stilt walking, and then sometimes the take back is, could a female really do that? And then when they see them perform, they're then acceptable.
Wow. I want to come back to stilt walking. You stilt walk, don't you?
Yes, I've been up there.
How old were you when you started stilt walking?
I started it when I was an adult. It was a challenge from my daughter. It's like, okay, cool, come and join me up there. And also, if if I'm going to be teaching it and tell people they're not going to fall, I'm going to have to be up there myself.
Who taught you?
Basically, my daughter would be the one who says, okay, cool, try it. But honestly, you learn by yourself. I took my stilts to work and I sat on top of my car during lunch and then I go, okay, cool. And you get it within 5 minutes. It doesn't take long to still walk. When I tell people that, they think it's a joke, but it only takes probably 5 minutes of, dedicated time and listening, and you'll be able to walk on stilts. Trying the different tricks is a different story altogether.
Leading me on here, Alton.
5 minutes.
Okay.
I've seen people just come and just walk naturally off this because it's as normal as walking. All you have to do is just find your balance. As soon as you find your balance, you're ready to go.
But okay, so I hear you, 5 minutes, finding your balance, walking. I'm thinking I may want to get fancy because back in the day, I knew some dance moves.
So then that question would go to finding your rhythm. So when we teach, we normally play music so you can move to that beat. But the key is listening to your instructor. If your instructor is not comfortable with you doing such thing, just follow the instructions.
Okay.
I have seen times where I say, don't do this, okay? Turn my back, boom, they tried something they were not supposed to do and they go straight down.
I'm getting the visual here with me on the stilts, the tallest ones, and I'm trying to lift one leg up. How about that?
No, that takes time. That takes time and time to practice.
Thank you for telling me this early so that I don't go out there and hurt myself. Now, I know that there are different heights of the stilts.
Correct.
And that goes for adults too, like for children.
Correct.
Okay. Now, does a person's athletic background has anything to do when you consider the height of the stilts that as the teacher would recommend?
The height, I would recommend we start off low and then go higher. A lot of the kids want to start off from the top. And one of the issues in starting at the top is you're not able to do the dance moves that you would be able to do if you were much lower. So the key is mastering that lower height for you to move forward. There's some people who are just natural, quite a few like Caitlin Rochambeau, natural, and they could go, high. Charles could go high. So some people are just born with that gift, but it could also be learned.
This is a very touchy question. What about falling? How do you deal with that?
So falling, we in doing this last year probably had 2 falls or 1. They are taught to fall safely. So if you fall, a couple of things is you're going backwards, you put your head, in the correct position so your head don't hit. If you're going forward, that's a safe and easy fall. Don't put your hand out, else your wrist would break or get fractured. Let all the pressure go down on your knee that has the padding. So falling is also part of the drill and the exercise, and understanding that they will fall at some time. Where sometimes I get a little nervous is when they're together, if their legs touch each other, the sticks touch each other, that could sometimes be disaster. Also teach them when you're walking. Sometimes people throw flyers all over the place. It's easy to step on a flyer and go fly.
I remember when they performed in February, I remember you were walking the path that they have to travel to get to the front of the stage to make sure that there were no obstacles on the floor, like flyers, like you said. Yeah.
Correct. And I'm very, very comfortable with them walking. I know for me, for when we're in a crowd, I'm very comfortable seeing my daughter up in the sky than on the ground. I know anytime I could look up and, okay, she's safe. No one could Masifa up there.
Wow. All right, so we're getting ready to wrap this up. Believe it or not, this has been such great conversation. Let's take another peek at some of the work that you do, and then we'll come back and talk a little more and wrap this up. Can't believe the time went by so quickly. So you and the Tropical Pet family there, just lounging around, I guess, for in the last one of the last pictures there. Now, I'm aware that this year has been very hard in some ways, and for so many of us, so many organizations. And I know that you had a very successful virtual Caribbean Carnival Cultural Festival, which was a combination of performances and a talent discussion. And this was the second one. The first one was last year, and this was the second one that was held virtually, of course, due to COVID-19. What is the Caribbean Carnival Cultural Festival in a couple of sentences?
So with Tropical Fest, one of the things that I like is people are from all over, whether it's from the French Caribbean or the Dutch, Spanish Caribbean. When it comes to Carnival, we seem to have a tilt towards the people possibly towards the Spanish side. And we wanted to produce something talking about various aspects of Carnival, not just the jump up and we having a good time, but take small portions of it and just highlight it. And every year we would, switch the dynamics of what we bring to the table from a different island and, explore. I know last year when we saw something from St. Kitts, where part of St. Kitts Carnival, they have a lot of people dressed up in clown-like outfits, which are different aspect, to it. So it's not just about, one version or one idea of Carnival, because if Carnival, it all came from, slavery, and we all are descendants from that, but understanding each individual traditions and going from it.
Okay, good. What does the future hold for Tropical Fest?
The future is bright. I could assure you that. A lot of new projects to come down the pipe. Our regular programming, yes, but we also want to be experimental and try new things and put out new products that hasn't been put out yet. So stay tuned and get your yoga mat ready.
Okay, I have two.
Good, beautiful.
So, in terms of things blossoming for Tropical Fest, and because Tropical Fest is doing a wonderful job, and I should say you and Tropical Fest, you are doing a wonderful job of passing on the knowledge, passing on the skills, passing on the expertise to the next generation. And the fact that in the beginning of our discussion, you mentioned the business aspect of, I wonder if there is anything in the plan for having direct and specific business classes for youths at Tropical Fest.
Yes, we have done that and we'll continue to do that. One of our favorite classes that we normally have is a workshop on copyrights and royalty, showing artists how to record their music correctly and protect it and register. So we do have workshops on the business aspect quite a lot.
How
And,
old?
and we are always open for a consultation on how to get things done.
Okay, and what's the age range of the children or the youths or the individuals who are in attendance to those workshops?
So those workshops, you'd mostly find adults who are starting off in their field or been in the field for a while and want to find out a little more of how this is supposed to work.
Aha, hence my question. I am thinking more the youth, Alton.
The youth through the program would get comprehensive knowledge of how things go, and all depends on how in depth and serious they want to take, their craft. As we move into the next phase of recording, they will understand, split pay, royalties and copyright, associations and registering with this. And we're recording this, and this is how you're supposed to behave in a recording studio versus in a performing environment.
Do you lead any of these workshops? I'm just asking because of how you are delivering this information to us.
The workshops, we normally bring in a professional to conduct the workshops. Roger Melso is a producer who has worked. We have brought in attorneys to those workshops and collaborated with them to produce these workshops.
Got it. Are you, Caribbean Attorney Network? Have you heard of them?
I have seen them on Facebook. That's pretty much my knowledge of it.
They're a really wonderful group to collaborate with. They're always looking for collaborations. Caribbean Attorneys Network.
Definitely will take that in consideration.
So, as we wrap this up, I see you as a gatekeeper of our Caribbean culture. How do you deal with individuals who see Caribbean culture as frivolous or seemingly unimportant?
The approach is to educate them. Incident came to mind where a few years ago, a parent who was in our Steel Pan program wanted to bring Steel Pan to her school, and there was a negative reaction towards, the principal that didn't want it. And I said, that's not the right reaction. The right reaction is to actually educate the person. Hey, this is the possibilities. This is what has been accomplished doing this. So not take a negative approach, but say, we haven't done a good job educating the wider community in terms of what our culture is. And I'm gonna go off on a tangent. So I don't know if you heard the controversy of this, how do you put it? This person who is a cultural influencer in London that said about, he paved the way for Black people in reference to whining.
Yes.
So whilst that might be wrong, on face value, absolutely wrong. Something must be said that we need to do a better job educating people on what our culture is. So it's not just jam and wine. So therefore, that's the knowledge that we have translated down to him, and that's what he's expressing. And we all applaud when we see that. And at the end of the day, we have to educate the wider world actually what it is. And just sometimes when we go out to performances, we go out to the universities and perform, and some of them are putting on some cultural activity, and it's supposed to represent the Caribbean culture. And many times I've seen what's presented is not a true reflection of Caribbean culture. And then it's like, okay, that's because we never educate the people that are on us the correct way how to present things and the history behind it.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, the incident that you referred to, the guy, he had spent some time in St. Lucia, didn't he?
So I heard.
Yeah, that's what the write-up said. But I want to thank you for bringing the knowledge, bringing it hard. I learned so much about not just you as a person, but your craft, your expertise, the great work that Tropical Fete is doing in the community. It's applaudable, and I'm glad that there is a safe place for the transfer of knowledge of our youth and some adults who may not have had the opportunity before. So I want to say thank you, Alton, for coming by and sitting and chatting with me.
Thank you. Appreciate it, and was a pleasure. I did not know 2 hours would run so quickly, but it sure did.
I get it every time. I get it every time. So thank you again. So for more information on my guest today, Alton Aimable, the president, who is also the founder of tropicalfete.com and Tropical Fete Inc. Please check out his Facebook page. His name is Alton Aimable, spelled AIMBLE. You can see his work on his personal Facebook page and also on Tropical Fete. As I say thanks to my guest, Alton Aimable, and to you, the viewers, for joining us today on arts, culture, and things in between. Of course, I have to acknowledge Claire Goring, Marcia Gordon, Yasuna Ryan, Dr. Raul Manzano, and this a special person, Raul de Silva, the man behind all of this, yet in front, because he is making it happen, the technical engineer. I want to say thanks from my heart for your unselfish service that you're giving and your support to me. I can't thank you enough. To all of you who continue to support arts, culture, and things in between by joining and even sending positive messages and chatting along the way during the program, I thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday, 3 to 5. We encourage you to tell a friend. We encourage you to go and look for the YouTube page. I'm supposed to say like and subscribe. I don't say it enough, but I plan. I will get it. I will get it as part of my routine. But I thank you for joining, and I thank you for being a part of this journey with us on arts, culture, and things in between. I'm your host, Rosa Clever, wishing you a safe and great, productive, wonderful week ahead. And I look forward to see you next time. So long for now, and see you soon. Bye-bye.